So welcome all, and I will be acknowledging you as we're moving along. And we are still trying to get Ambassador to connect. We practiced yesterday, and as these things go, 4 minutes before we started, we're having some connectivity things. But we're sorting that out behind the scenes. If Lebogang could just share the presentation so long, and we will. I don't think there's reason to panic. I'm sure most of you are here to listen to Ambassador Mtintso, and I wouldn't. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that she is online. She is all set and ready to join us, but we just need to make sure that we get the right link and connection so that she's able to join us. But in the meantime, I just want to have just a few housekeeping issues. At the bottom of your screen, there is a button called chat button. So if you want to chat to us or to me or to ask a question, if I haven't recognized you, please use that chat button. I hope everyone has found the chat button. It's at the bottom of the screen. If you want to ask a specific question, you can use either the Q&A button, which I will be monitoring as we're going. We're moving along, but you can also use the chat button if you cannot find that. Chat button gives you an option of either asking a question to everyone, so that what you're asking or typing in, everyone can see, or you can alternatively ask it to another person, another attendee if you want, but you can also ask, if you want to ask me or Ambassador Mtintso, please select questions or chat to panelists. So if you want us to just see what you are saying, we will be prioritizing chats to us, to panelists, as opposed to general chat. So it helps to just want to find something else here. Some things are not working yet. But as opposed to just general chat to everyone, just remember that if you want to give a quick attention, please address the question to everyone. The other thing that I would also like to appeal right up front, so that it doesn't appear that I'm unfair when it happens, when we get to questions time, if you can please ask your question, one question, or give input.
Another flow, giving mammograms and come
give input. I'm muting Lebogang. If you give input, make sure that you give input in 30 seconds. I am going to act like you're on radio. It's like make your sharp point very quickly, because there's quite a lot of people on the call. So it would be useful to give everyone or most people a chance. So if you are going to take a long time, it's going to be difficult to get everyone. So let's try and help one another. So quick point that you want to make. And also be mindful that there's more of us on the call. Just need my Zenanda colleagues to just send me a message to make sure that I have that when Ambassador joins us, and Lebogang, the screen that you're sharing is blank. If you can please make sure that you share the screen with the presentation. So So that's the other housekeeping issue. The one other thing that we've also discovered is that when we started these webinars, when you register with Zoom, they would send us your registration details and your email address. What we're finding now is that maybe because Zoom is quite busy at the moment, we are not getting those anymore. So we asking you to please ensure that you give us your contact details so that we can send you the recording. What we will do we will send both last week's recording as well as this week's, but we need your email addresses to be able to do that. So if you can, please in the chat room, just type in your email address and address it to panelists, and then we will then through that be able to send you the recording. I will remind you as the session progresses. Please remember to send us your email address so that we can send you the recording and the slides that we are using today. And I see my colleagues still haven't got the slides on. Seems like today we've got more technical problems than we've ever had. Okay. I see there's already some email addresses that are being typed on. Yeah, say email, yes, like Vuyelwa Hlehliso is done. Says email address to all panelists, so we've got that. We have the functionality after all of this to see all of the chats that did happen, and we can print that out to get your thing. And I just need my colleague Ganash. Somehow I can't pick it up as a participant, so that she's able to give me feedback on Ambassador. So she's gonna have to do. She's gonna have to do it on WhatsApp. Ganash, won't you communicate with me on WhatsApp so that I can see if Ambassador is online, so that I can put her as a panelist. So just whilst that is going on, and bear with us today, is that we have quite a few, sounds like we have a few glitches as it happens, and I am hoping and praying that today will work as well as the other days, and that we'll be able to get the speaker on board. The speaker on board as soon as we can. Can I get Dinashe? Can someone? Okay, the ambassador is on. Let me just make her a panelist. Okay, it's now giving me a long way. If you can just bear with me. Normally I could just type a person's name and it comes up on the screen. Oh, there's Dinashe, found her, and I'll make her to be promoted to panelist. And then Dinashe, if you can just share the screen, and then I'll find Ambassador just now on this list. And once we've made her a panelist, then we're ready to go. And I'm hoping that's gonna take less than a minute. If you all could just bear with me with that. I am looking for her on the list here. Okay. Just need to find it on this list of participants. It seems to be giving me problems today. And once I found her on the list, the good news is that she is on the call. Worst case scenario, she will be able to talk to you. Once I find her on the screen, is that she'll be able to talk to you as a participant as opposed to be a panelist. But good best case scenario is that I'm able to find her on the thing, and she becomes a panelist. Okay, all right. So so today we're moving. If you get to the next slide, please. Okay, just a little bit about who I am. I think by now we all know who I am. My name is Pam Yako. I'm the MD of Managing Director of Zalande Leadership Consulting. And I work as a coach, and I'm a member of Commensa, and I have written those 2 books that you see. Next slide, please. The reason why we're having these conversations, one is to share ideas with you, because this is a difficult time for all of us. And being it's a difficult time, it is people have to find ways of coping and surviving. Some people are seeing it as an opportunity to grow, to do things that they have not been able to do. But we use these calls to try and just share if there's ways to cope, and if there are things that are doing. So we will be very soon get to give you a chance to say, how have you found the time that we've been on lockdown, and how have you used it? I'm still trying to find her on my list, and I am not winning. Okay. If you can bear me for another second. Don't know why today it's doing things that it hasn't done before. Okay, let me close the screen and open it again. Sometimes it helps to close and open again. God. All right. So that's the first thing. We are in this together. So we're trying to find ways of coping and working with one another. Secondly is to also know that we can be more during these trying times. I think now that we've had an extension in South Africa, and I think many other countries have now joined as well, that we're not, sometimes when we're sitting alone at home, you feel that you are basically on your own. So there is other people that was facing similar things, that you belong to a tribe, and therefore you can use this time to share. Okay. So I'm going to come to the questions just now. I see I've got another question here, but I don't know, somehow I'm not winning with getting a list of attendees, all attendees, to show on my screen so that I can find. Okay. If Ambassador can hear me, won't you put something in the chat room for me? And then I will be able to see if I can use that angle to get to you. We're still trying to, there's a question whether is Ambassador's video on. We're still trying to get her to be a panelist, because she has to join in as an attendee, so that we are able to then, when she is a panelist, then she'll be able to switch on her camera, and all of you can see her. but I'm trying, somehow Zoom is giving us hassles today in a way that I haven't experienced. And I'm just hoping that it is a glitch with just, let's just see. Okay. Okay, Ganasha is also seeing 8 attendees. I'm seeing 8 instead of 41. I don't know why is that the case. And I just need to see if if Ambassador could just type her name, type a message, because I can from that message pick up. If she can hear me, just type any message on the screen. Or Ganasha, you might have to get off the call and call her and explain this to her, that she must just get off type a message to me, then I'll be able from the chat room to be able to upgrade her from here, because in terms of the list of attendees, I'm not able to pick her up. Okay, so let's just get that to carry on. And also, if I can move to the next slide, which is about the topic of today. Okay, so next slide, please. So the next slide is so today we're talking about resilience, and resilience means different things to different people. In a short definition, and there's many people that have written on this topic, it's basically the ability to be able to bounce back from difficult experiences. As they say, life happens, and we all go through things that are unexpected. Like I hope today is not a test of resilience in terms of us as an audience, and that we're able to bounce back and find the system to work in a way that suits everyone. So that is what it's a process of adapting well in the face of adversity. It could be trauma, it could be tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stresses rather, which might either be family related, work related, health, financial stresses, or something like a pandemic like we're facing now as a world. So it's our ability to sustain this and be able to recover from it is going to be a factor of our own resilience, both as individuals and as an economy and as a country, and the whole our whole systems, whether they are financial systems, our social systems, and so on. So it doesn't mean that when you are resilient, you don't feel pain. So you do feel pain, but in spite of the pain, you keep going. So resilient people are not people that are numb, but they're people that, notwithstanding everything else that they're going, they find the strength in them, and they find the courage to still move in, and also adapt to the challenges and bounce back, preferably, hopefully quickly, but sometimes it takes quite a long time, and each one's journey, it is different. I know this Rudy Hillerman has given a definition here, which says includes attending to land use management on all land across municipalities. And this is the kind of physical side of resilience. And today we're talking more the people side and the emotional side of dealing with resilience. But thanks for offering a definition as well. If I can go to that slide. So what happens, you can be resilient because you've got something else in you. Next slide. And that something else in you is something called grit. It's the firmness of character that is able to pull you through, notwithstanding what is going on around you. So all of us have got a level of grit what Angela Duckworth calls grit. And she says that part of the journey of building resilience is to work on something that she calls gratitude, which is basically a combination of your internal systems of toughness or courage, and put together with the right attitude. And that she gives us a term called gratitude. And that she says that the more we exercise, and it's like a muscle, so the more you exercise your gratitude or your grit, the more resilient you're going to be, because you won't know how strong you are until you go through a process. And some of us are lucky that we might not go through difficulties in life, but I still have to meet those people. But a lot of us go through a lot of hard stuff. And sometimes some of us are not strong enough or don't have it in us to pull ourselves back on our own. Some of us call on our families, some of us call on our friends, and move forward. So talking about grit, another author, next slide, please. So Dr. Neetha Bhushan, so we'll make the slides available to you. And I'm going to allow us to comment so that I'm going to try and find and deal with the administrative things that we seem to be facing. And so that Dr. Neetha Bhushan has written on a book called Emotional Grit, and she talks about those points that you basically have to grow. The slides are moving very fast. Can we go back to the slide? Yes. And so, previous slide, please. Okay, so this slide. So this increases your awareness of self. So part of the process, are the slides moving now? We're not in the same room with my colleague. Today we're having a lot of glitches than expected. Okay, so this increases your awareness of self. So you need to grow in the process. And as you're growing, you're starting to reveal yourself, because once you are more aware of who you are, what you're made of, you are able to reveal yourself to the world. And if you can reveal a better version of yourself to the world, you are better able to innovate. And once you start innovating, then you are starting to commit to action and or finding new ways of coping and dealing with things. And then you move to transformation. And that is when you take action, you are ready to grow and change. So that's her definition of this, how she used the concept of grit and use it an acronym that explains what that is. So I have a list of people. I just want to see this one who's raised their hand. Let me just see. She sent me a message. Let me just check. Okay, now I can see she's got a different. Okay, now let's see this. Let's do this. I'm going to promote her to panelist. Okay. Now, then I'm going to, let me just check if she is the right one that I've promoted. Okay. Ambassador Mtinso, are you online?
Yes, I'm online with you.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, okay. All right, now my blood pressure can come down a little bit. But the next thing I need you to do is to switch on your camera. Remember, you go to Zoom, and then you find a camera on Zoom, not your phone camera.
All right, darling.
And when you switch on the camera,
Start video.
you'll find a button that says start video. Once you start that, find that button, and then that switches on your camera, and then people can see you.
I've done that.
Yeah, her camera's on.
Oh, okay. On my side, it shows I must still ask her to start the video. Okay. If Lebogang, can you see her? Can any
She's
of the...
not. She's now gone. She's now gone off. She was on. The camera was on. Now it's off.
Okay. Ambassador, won't you please put the camera back on? Start video.
You cannot start video because the host has disabled it.
Okay, let me ask you to start it. I haven't disabled it.
There we go. Her camera's on again.
All right. Okay. I did nothing on my side. But just to get us to the slide where we start the conversation. So, Ambassador, welcome. Just show me the slide where we have her picture. And we have on the call about 50 attendees and people from different parts of the continent, I think from what I can see, who are here to listen to you. But welcome and thank you very much for making the time and joining us on this webinar.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, thank you. I was just before you got on trying to just set the scene and find a way of getting you on board. So maybe to just get us started, if you could just introduce yourself in a way that you feel comfortable and share a little bit about who you are, and we know what you do as a diplomat, and then I'll ask another question just now.
My name is Thenjiwe Mtintso. As you have said, I'm a diplomat. I was born in what would be today called Imikuku, informal settlements. And I left formal school in JC. You would not know what JC is, but I suppose it's just the 7th year of schooling. I started working for Bas Hotong when I was 15 years old because my mother could not continue with my education. I was kicked out of work by Bas Hotong when I was 16. And I continued with life. You know, life happens. And finally, I got to Fort Hare in 1973, and then I was kicked out of Fort Hare. And then I was detained, then I was banned, then I was detained, then I was banned, then I went into exile. And I came back in 1993, and I went into Parliament when Parliament started. And I was a gender commissioner, and then I worked at the ANC head office, and now I'm a diplomat.
Awesome. It's quite a rich history. We'll come back to some of the experiences that you've had. If I may, just you're on lockdown, aren't you? Just tell us a little bit about that and how you're finding being on lockdown in a foreign country.
I have been on lockdown for 31 days, and the first from the 14th of March. And the first ones were on quarantine because I had been in contact with people that were infected during the International Women's Day. And I have been very frightened. When I look at statistics, on the 14th, when we went into quarantine, there were 5,700 and some odd infected. And at that time, there were 136 deaths. Today, when I was submitting my report earlier on, there are 174,000 infected, 18,255 deaths, and 26,000 health workers that have been infected, and 26 of those have passed on. One of those that have passed on in that figure that I've given you of the deaths up to date is one of the staff members in my office, one who was doing consular work. So I have been frightened, but I've also been hopeful when I look at what is happening in South Africa and what my government has been doing and what the people have been doing. I've also been very angry with our people. And I say our people, I'm talking about the African people, because in the main, I've just seen the African people not obeying what should be done. I've had opportunity to self-reflect. Now, this self-reflection is something that I don't usually do. I barely do. And I've had opportunity to do this. I did this when I was in detention, when I was banned, when I was in detention, and then when I was underground in many of the countries. So these times when I've had to be isolated, there have also been opportunities for me to self-reflect. And some of this self-reflection is not very good about me, but I've also learned during this time to be my own best friend. Because I've had during these times to talk to myself, sing to myself, laugh at myself, cry with myself, and do all these kinds of things. But in the main, I've also been grateful because I've had a beautiful life and I've had opportunity. And I've had to cry when I think of all those other people who are not as fortunate as myself. So it has been on and off, and I've been trying to be disciplined. Because here, the Spaniards have given us a kind of routine when you wake up, what you do and all that. And I've done my work, my diplomatic work, as far as I can do that. But sometimes I get very indisciplined and not do my work. I've done my exercises, I've done all these things. So it has been very bad. It has also been very good because I've been luckier than most.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I'm going to allow people to just reflect on what the ambassador have said and just your own, what you've done in this time and what resonates with you as well in terms of what's being said. Remember, colleagues, it is 30 seconds, and I do not want to be a funny host. If you are going for longer than that, it's going to be I'm going to have to do what they normally do when you phone in on a radio program. I wouldn't like to do that, but you know when they say you live on radio, and then the next thing is say make a point very quickly, and I would like to just make sure that people are as disciplined as Ambassador was saying, in his, yeah. The other thing that we've sort of figured out is that when we are sharing the screen, you can't really see her. So what we'll do, we're learning as we're doing ourselves. So every time that Ambassador speaks, we will get a chance to get, we will remove the screen, stop sharing the screen so that you can see her. Yeah, so I'm gonna allow people to just say a few things. 30 seconds, please. How you greet the ambassador, whatever you wanna say to her very quickly. How does what she said resonate with you, and what you, if you can, what you're struggling with this time? You don't have to answer all of those questions, but you've got literally 30 seconds. If shorter than that, even welcome. I've got Wazi as the first person, and I've unmuted her if she could take the floor. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. You took the words right out of my mouth. because I was in Italy at the beginning of the month when Italy started to lock down. And we've been so scared, and I've been struggling to get out of my head. And I have family all over the world in the diaspora, and the sense that I'm not able to access family if there should be a crisis somewhere. But there was something you said about just getting out of your own self and getting out of your head that was really powerful. So just thank you very much, and the reminder that it's okay to not do our work sometimes, that even ambassadors are also
Oh, awesome. Okay, people, you can raise your hands. I think I can still see them. If not, just bring it to my attention in the chat room. Whilst that is happening, I've got some comments. The one is to Ambassador from Kupano, saying, what an incredible, honest guest, humbled by a vulnerability and grit. Thanks for the bigger view. That's the one comment. The other one is from Lulu Gwagwa, who says, if resilience was a person, Thenjiwe is indeed, okay, Thenjiwe is indeed that person. And then I'm just gonna see if I've got anyone else so my chat screen is now disappeared. Okay, I'm just gonna put that up. And then I've also got, let me close that screen. It is quite a mission to run this thing today. And then someone else is saying that, I saw that comment earlier, that you're looking very good in spite of the lockdown, Ambassador. Compliments to you. And then I've got Khali who wants to speak. I've unmuted her. Over to
Hi,
you,
Ambassador, and thank you for what you have shared with us so far. Hearing your history, Ambassador, and comparing it to much of your peers, which is more of the same, of starting here, being kicked out of there, starting there, being kicked out of there, and so on. It shows resilience, I think, even without going into the talk so much. But it's very different to what the current generation has. We go through a lot less, but then we really cry with a lot less that we go through. Does that mean that we do not have as much resilience, or has resilience taken on a new form with the current generation?
Thank you. Okay, I've got other questions on there. Okay, so the one question, Ambassador, if I'm gonna give it back to you, is that Roxy wants to know, how can we get our people to comply? If there's any suggestions that you have or any thoughts in that regard. And a little bit on your journey, which we'll get to just now. And then I've got one more hand in this round. I'm going to take one last hand, and then we'll answer that, and we just move the questions on. And I've got Sia, whose hand is up, and I have unmuted her. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you very much, Ambassador, for giving us that very brief overview of your journey thus far. What I wanted to ask is, in the moments wherein you felt your most dejected and your most afraid, or your most pinned down by your circumstances, your experiences, and maybe the internal chat that's happening inside of your head, how are you able to unravel yourself from that? Thank you.
Okay, so there's someone who's saying, I listened to your story and didn't hear you talking about going back to university. And they said, I met you there. I'm just not able to see who that is, but there's someone who met you at university and would like to hear a little bit about how you got there. And then Togo says, you are a pillar, your life is a book you refuse to write. We've spoken about this, Ambassador. So a little bit about a reflection about you've in your introduction, you've spoken about some of the hardships you had in the beginning, and what would be useful for us as people listening to you and as a younger generation, just to get a sense of how do you get yourself back, and how do you get expelled from all of these places, but you even managed to get back to university. So how do you do that, and what does it take, and what advice you want to give us in that regard? And then we'll come back to the other questions just now. I'm going to hand over to you. Just make sure that you've got the mic. Yes, ma'am.
What I forgot to say about lockdown is actually that you also depend on other people. Dr. Lulu Gwago was describing this last week as a tribe and being in the tribe. It also gave me an opportunity to know whether I'm in the tribe or there are people that are in my tribe. But anyway, how do I get myself up? And what does it take? I have no clue what it takes. But what I know is that when Bas Hotong kicked me out of his factory, where I was just cleaning big ballpoint pen, I just thought, okay, Bas Hotong, done. And then I went and marketed and looked for another job and got kicked out of that job. So you just keep on, I just keep on going. I don't know what it is, but I just keep on going. And I had a mother who used to say to me, so what? When I was in the Mikukundi and I come back crying, so she then says, so what? What did you do about it? And I was never sure whether I should go back and beat those people up. And sometimes I did. When I did beat them up, she then said, so when now you are a thug, you go about beating people. So this survival is just something that you've got to have to survive, to then say that I'm not going to allow the negatives in my life to make me negative. I'm not going to allow my past, whatever that negative past was, I'm not going to allow it to determine what I'm going to become. Fast forward, the question that you are raising, how do you pick yourself up? I think that grit that you're talking about in its direct meaning, grit, you just keep on going. You just have to keep on going. Of course, I think that I must just step back a little bit. I know that you didn't ask this question, but it was asked earlier on. I have not had choices in the things that happened to me. I was born into patriarchy. I was born into racism. I was born into poverty. I just didn't choose to be born into these things. And if I was born into these things, I had to survive them, not to adapt to them. I just have to survive them. I have had, and people say this, misfortunes, but these misfortunes sometimes, and the younger generation ought to know this, they actually create an opportunity for you to get into yourself and see what you are made of. It's not the good times that make you see what you're made of. It's the bad times that you see what you're made of. So I just go there, and as my mother would say, my mother didn't have polite language, and I also don't have. When shit gets into your door, get out and remove that shit. Don't wallow in that shit. That's my mother, it's not me, sorry.
Yeah. The question, there's a question to you. There's a couple of questions that I'm picking up. Firstly, someone says, Gugu, who says her other name is Tenjiwe. And she says, you also Tenjiwe, she is in with the good ones. And then she also wants you to expand a little bit on your disappointment with our people, as if you could take that. And then I'm just going to allow you to answer that. And then the last one is that Lindy says, thank you for all of you and others that are so far from home are doing for us, especially during this time when the first instinct is to be home. I hope you are enthused by such platforms to connect with us. I listened to your story and I didn't hear you talking about going back to university, and I met you there.
Let me get back to university. I don't know how many hours you have, but I will tell the story very quickly. And it has to do with rejection. I'm coming back. I was sort of a biggish person outside, having been a commander, having been a chief rep, having been in the women's section, having been all kinds of things. But when I tried to go to the ANC to look for work in MK, I couldn't be accommodated. There were already many comrades. I went to the women's section. I could not be accommodated. There were many comrades already. I went to what was called DIA, Department of International Affairs. I could not be accommodated. And one day I was walking from Orlando East, my home, Unesganga, and I was carrying food for my partner and my son. And the food was idombolo, umleqwa, idikahari, and all that. So I fell esgangeni. And of course, the dombolo, the gravy of the mleqwa, the gravy of amatumbu, the gravy of oxtail, all of them on myself. And I sat there, I laughed. I said, yo, Tenjum Tins, this is the end of you. Anyway, I get into the taxi and people laugh at me because I'm smiling and I'm all funny. The following Monday, that was a Saturday, the following Monday, I was at Wits looking for a space to study. I could not continue to depend on the African National Congress and my exile credentials. I had to do something for and about myself. And thanks to Sisterhood, a lady there, a very young lady at that time, Yolisa Matsozoma of today, was in administration. I didn't have many of these things that I needed, but I had 15 course ones: Introduction to Law, Physics 1, Maths 1, English 1. And I said, Sisi, I want to study. I guess Sisi, but the long and short of it, I got to university. As luck would have it, because I always am sort of lucky, as luck would have it, then I got elected to parliament, to go to parliament, and I'm studying at Wits. And I'm doing second year. And I've said that I'm not going to do any first year. I'm going to second year and third year at the same time. My lecturer was Sheila Menkis, amongst others. And I had a friend, Mtlalipule Mkine, who used to take notes for me because I was in parliament. And then on Thursdays, I had to rush to Johannesburg, go to Wits, attend classes on Friday morning, and then rush to the Eastern Cape, attend to my constituency, and rush back to Cape Town on Monday and be a good parliamentarian. So I went to Wits and I graduated. I did graduate, and later on, I did do masters. You just have to get up and just do it. You depend on yourself. You are your friend. You are your best friend, your best enemy, but you also depend on others to support you. Sisterhood has always worked for me. And those that I've mentioned, it's not only those that have helped me. Mtlalipule and I, up till today, were still great friends. And it was through that misfortune of having to be out of class that I found. Yolisa Matsozoma is still my little sister. It was through that misfortune. So these misfortunes are not misfortunes for me, they've made me.
Thank you very much. I saw Yolisa Matsozoma, I think, is on the call as well. She joined us. I think I saw her name earlier. Welcome, and thanks for your contribution to Ambassador's life and throughout your journey. Got a couple of questions for you, Ambassador. It says, thank you, Ambassador. You've made a statement about being your own best friend. I'm interested to know what you've learned about yourself in this time. That's the one question. And I've got another question for you about MK, but I'll come back to that. It's from the people that are listening. They're not from me, these questions.
Okay. What have I learned about myself? A lot of the negatives. I have always known, but I have discovered even more during this lockdown, that I've got an inferiority complex that gets inside a room before I get in. And I've had to look at some of these things that show my inferiority complex. I've also learned that I cannot stand dishonesty. I cannot stand people that are just dishonest. I just was looking at many people in my life, in my organization, in my country, all over, that have just been dishonest. I just hate dishonesty. Now, it also has reminded me that my mother used to, young people who are listening, but my mother used to beat me a lot when I lie, when I'm not honest, and when I steal. Two things. And I used to do this. Emaplatin was Sasipeka communally, so there were pots there. Sometimes you'd find that people have got meat, and we don't have meat at home. So what should I do really? I mean, there's meat there. So I just go and take the meat, and then my mother would discover that I'd taken the meat, and I would be beaten the lights out. The third thing that my mother taught me is family. I don't know about this thing that the young people talk about, biological family, because in that mkuku of ours, we were more than 12 at one time. And I asked my mother one time, who is family? Because others were sort of my age group and so on. And my mother took in Uswas and beat the hell out of me and said, this is family. When I say to you, somebody is family, that person is family. So I have learned during this lockdown that I have got a big family. I've known, but it's bigger than I know. I have learned also that I am a coward. People have been asking me to write books and so on. And I've been reading people's books and I've been saying, yo, hey, but clever, these people are clever, they can write books. And I've just been afraid. And I've started telling to my family, to my tribe, stories about a girl called Molly. And I'm enjoying Molly's journey and all these things. And I realized I could actually tell stories. I don't want my bosses to say I don't want to be an ambassador, but I could easily, I think, not easily, I could leave this job and start telling stories. This is what I've learned about me. But I also have learned that I like food. I eat.
Thank you very much for those insights. And I'm gonna pick up on the stories part, because you and I spoke about this a couple of days ago, and the fact that many books that are written are based on stories, and so I wouldn't say that you're lazy. I think I would say that you've started already on a journey of writing a book. Maybe what we need to think about is how do we get that into a book? Because the stories are there. And I think from what I gather is Molly is you. So we're very lucky to be listening to some of the stories, which sounds like a kind of bestseller kind of stories that we would like to listen to. So it would be nice just for you to reflect. I know you have taken a more hard stance on yourself about being lazy, but I like your observation and insight in terms of self-doubt, that sometimes you doubt your capability. And I think it is a piece of work that all of us have to undertake. But I just want to know that is there anything that we should be expecting with these stories as the rest of young people in South Africa, or younger people in South Africa? I don't think I'm so young anymore.
One of the young people in my tribe have said that let the stories just go, they'll find their destination.
Awesome.
She says that Molly has had a life and she found herself. I mean, I'm very old. So she just says, let them go. They'll find their destination. So I hope that they'll find their destination. I don't know where they're going, But they are going because I have them. I used to have them once a day. Now I have them twice a day. I tell these stories probably because I also have got arthritis. And so I've got to tell people that, yo, I'm in pain, terrible pain. So I've got to share this, and my tribe has been giving me all kinds of advices on how to deal with this pain. But I just want to say, you know, Pam, that we are in this situation of this lockdown. And I don't think when we come out, we'll be the same. I don't think I'll be the same. I may be the worst side of me, but I hope I'll be the best side of me. So we will find things that we didn't know, the abilities that we didn't know we had, the friends that we didn't know we have, the tribes to which we belong that we didn't know. What we have to do, Roxy is asking there, what do we do about people that don't, that really are not abiding? Further than what we've done, talking to our people, talking to our relatives, posting and having the police, there's not much. There's not much you can force people to do. But I, having been here when it was 1,000 and some odd, and now sitting at 147,000, hope that each one of us takes responsibility for herself or himself. Because if you take that responsibility for yourself, you then take responsibility for the rest of our communities and for the rest of our society. But it starts with self, just like this thing of resilience. It starts with you, your values, your beliefs, your everything. It starts with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've got a few questions. But just to comment on the stories, I think the stories are finding, they're going somewhere with this conversation as well. So we are on the receiving end. We are really appreciating all the things that you're sharing with us. And again, thanks for that. There's a question from Lindy that says, Sister Andrea, how did you build your resilience when you were one of the leaders in MK? What's different now as an ambassador? And she says, great input so far. Thank you.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. When you are in MK, let me just start with myself. I have always felt that I have to serve and I've got to be of service. And again, this comes from my mother, Umakhade. When I would demand a birthday, Ati, what is so big about you? What is so important? What is so great? To the extent that I've never had a birthday party until I was 21. And then when I was 17, my children and my grandchildren did something. And my friends also took me out. So my mother felt that you've got to serve and be of service. So when I went into exile, I was not running away. I felt that I had to do something. And that's why I was angry with people in Lesotho who kept me there for a long time before I went into MK. But anyway, I went into MK. MK and any military has got its own discipline and its own way of doing things. And in my view, it makes you grow. You grow and grow and grow. So I grew in MK. But what it also helped me is that when we came back, and I felt that I was being rejected, and it was not a fair feeling, but you know that thing with how why bang tatimina. But anyway, when I felt that, I then had to go back and say, I did not do what I did for anybody, for myself rather. I did it for service and for my country and for my people. I've been fortunate, more fortunate than many people. I have not worked. I've not asked for a job since I asked for a job from Ubaso Dong. I've always been deployed. I've been deployed by my organization. Sometimes people tell me that I should not have been deployed there, I should not have been deployed, whatever. But I've been deployed, and now I'm a diplomat. It's not different from my discipline of MK. I don't think I'm a diplomat of a special type, but I think I bring difference to diplomacy. As a woman combatant, I bring difference. And I'm not afraid to express myself, even as a diplomat. sometimes I express myself to sometimes what is my detriment. So I enjoy being MK, I enjoy being diplomat, and I find that I've grown. But what has always guided me is my own value system, Ubuntu. I take a lot from Ubuntu. And I hope that as a person, and those that are in my tribe, and those that know me, know that I've got Ubuntu. Because that Ubuntu, in my view, is very fundamental, even for resilience. I don't think you can be resilient, ulixuki, dishonest, ungena integrity, usiba. How are you going to be resilient? I don't think so. But anyway, me, as Tenjiwe, I talk to myself and I address myself. When I get depressed, I do what my family knows. I do a Tenji. Somebody was asking me how I get out of this. I do a Tenji. And Tenji, doing a Tenji is a serious business. I lock myself in. I don't talk to anybody. I don't do anything. I just lock myself in. I cry. And sometimes when I cry, I don't remember. I started crying because of something. Then I continue crying. I can't remember, but I have to cry. And then I laugh at myself. And then I put on my music. I dance, and I like dancing. I do all these things. It's a way of getting into myself. For me, it may not work for other people. But when I get out of a Tenji, when I get out of that Tenji, I have taken further steps in my life.
Okay. A few comments. Thanks, Ambassador. A servant leadership mindset always prevails. I salute you for that, Ambassador. Yolima Tozoma saying, you've got more than Ubuntu. You are selfless. I'm proud to call you my mom's friend. And then Nelly Soilu Jabe says, Auntie, you are inspiring us. And thank you so much for those. By the way, someone else has commented, we didn't rehearse this, just for those that have commented that they note that we've got the similar head duke. For me, it was just realizing a few minutes, because I had a Zoom call earlier on with someone, and he said to me, what was a state of my hair. He says, well, I haven't seen you without where you haven't washed before. So I thought, oh gosh, let me do something, because it was just a few minutes before coming onto this call. Okay, so just a few more questions. I'm going to allow people another 5 minutes or so. Beating, would you do that to your kids today, and why? And the concept of family in today's economic struggles, your thoughts, please.
Well, I must say that the people of today have got their own way of parenting, and I don't criticize it, and I would not do the beating under the current circumstances. But I do find it difficult sometimes with my grandchildren. I had 14 of them visiting me in December. It was very difficult not to beat them, but I don't beat, and I don't think that people should beat children, because today violence, unlike when I grew up in the 50s, violence is so much in our society. So if you teach the children that for them to listen, they must be beaten, you can't use as a fight duke, anything that was next to your mom, you got beaten. But I would not do that. And what was the other question that had arisen is related, the current generation and whether resilience has taken a new form. I think the challenges are quite different from what I had to go through. My life itself, I had no choice in the matter. My life itself was a big challenge, but that big challenge made me. These days, our children and our children's children, they have what we would call luxuries. So they've got choices and all these things. So it's very difficult for them to say, I'm resilient, because you are resilient when you are faced with negatives, when you are faced with challenges, when you are faced with tragedies. And that's why sometimes I think that they need a lot of coaching, as you do, Pam. They need a lot of assistance. And families play a bigger role than we can imagine. We've got to take them by hand because they need that kind of support. We probably did not need, those who are in my age group, 60s and upward, we probably did not need as much support. It was just a question of survival. We just had to survive. And everything was a big deal. So if you came back from school and you had passed, my mother would just say, so what? That's what we expected you to do. And I remember Steve Tshwete once saying, when a fish swims, you don't stand around and say, yo, Nancy fish is a swimmer, because it's duty to swim. But when the fish gets out of the water, you go to the fish and say, hey, fish, upamben, you are not going to survive outside the water. Go back into the water. And I think our young children should actually be taught that swimming the fish is a natural abode. It has got to be in water and they've got to do their best, and that's very good. We congratulate them. But when they get out of that water, they're going to die. It's like these South Africans who are roaming the streets. If they continue roaming the streets, they're going to die. And unfortunately, they're also going to kill us. There was another question you asked, which I forgot. I focused on the beating. There was a second one, sorry.
The second part to it is that, and the concept of family in today's economic struggles, your thoughts about that?
I found the concept of family in today's economic situation quite unfortunate. I read a book by somebody that calls it black tax. And I think the content is very good, but calling your responsibilities to family taxation, for me, is not quite comfortable. And unfortunately, because we have now grown into the Western kind of concept of family, we find that we are not supportive of each other. We find that people get entitled. So people think that you've got money. So there's this one side that you think that you've got to just look after what is called your biological family, you, your children, your dog, your cats, and all that, and spend lavishly on those. And yet, within your family, there are those that go without food, and you are able to just gorge yourself, no problem. But on the other hand, there are those who then think that if there's one person in the family, it is the responsibility of that person to take care of anyone and everyone without them making an effort. So we've got to find a balance, making each one of our family members responsible, try and do everything, but also those that can, lifting the others. I would find it difficult to go and lift others and leave those in my family. But sometimes I find it difficult to cope with the family demands. So it's a difficult situation that we find ourselves in. But the very fact that we talk about these things, we need to talk about these things. We need to reflect, especially during this time. How do I contribute to my community, to my society, and to my family? How do I contribute? I don't know.
Yes, thanks. Just for people to remember to type their email addresses so that we can send you the recording. There's quite valuable insights. Just get to the chat room and type your email address. Just you can select chat to panelists, and then you saw if you don't want anyone else to see your email address. But we will make sure that we get you the recording as soon as it is available to us. Storytelling, I think it's my last question on this list. How would you encourage this today to today's youth in the midst of social media?
I like social media because it also helps me to interact with people. But I have found that social media has got the negative, the unintended negative. I talked about my grandchildren who were here during December. And I found that they spent 80% of their time on social media, posting, rather than on interacting. I had hoped that I would be able to tell stories. I still hope to do that. But is social media, and everybody gets drawn into the social media and people sit in the social media forever. I'm bad with social media, I must admit. I'm very, very bad. But it's a good tool to use to interact with people, to write down. The fact that I'm able to post to my tribe my Moli stories is because of social media. So I'm grateful to social media, but I don't think it should just go to the extreme. I think we should try to find a balance. There's one thing that I just wanted to say in the stories. I'm sorry, I just have to tell this story because it's quite important for young women. I said that I did go, I grew up in Mkukwini, and then I went to a place called Impozolo in the rural areas of Willowvale. And one day with my aunt, I must have been about 9 years at that time. One day, the homestead was burnt down, completely burnt down. And we were told, my uncle had just died, and we were told that it was burnt down because my aunt was Igriha, Uyatagat. This makes an impact, the kind of things that people say about you and about your family. And it turned out much, much later when I asked my aunt, yeah, aunt, why are you a witch? Because Igriha is a witch. And it was not because my aunt was a witch. It was because patriarchy had deemed it necessary for her to marry my uncle, who she was not in love with, who was not working, who was a useless drunkard in the village. But because she was a woman, she was expected to marry my uncle. I'm raising this because it's something that is arising even in this current society. I watched something yesterday on TV. Isithembu. It's something that's done. It's in our culture and it's in our constitution. Some of these things the young people have got to challenge. I'm not saying anything about Isithembu, but I'm saying we've got to challenge this. It took me years to realize that my aunt was one of those feminists. At that time, it was 1958 or thereabout, 1959. And she was a feminist because she said, I am not going to be married to any uncle that I don't love. Because he is not even a productive kind of man in the village. I just thought I should bring this because I wanted to share with the younger generation how patriarchy manifests itself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I think we're coming to the end of our session, but we're not there yet. You're not off the hook yet, Ambassador. I'm still enjoying talking to you. I see on the chat room that also Usis Sheila is also listening today. She just typed her email address. I just saw her. So, I mean, for me, there's a couple of things that you've said, and I would like, which are my takeaways from what you are saying, and I would like to do that on behalf of the people listening. She says, Sheila says, thank you, Tendjilele. I'm very afraid of COVID-19 and everything to do with it. And how do you deal with this unreasonable fear? That I'm going to give an allowance for.
Probably what I said earlier was, I cry a lot. But after that, or during that crying, I talk to myself to then say that there are things that I can do, which I do in this residence. There are things that I can do, which I do with the tribe. There are many things that I can do, and I do those. But there are things that are beyond me. So if I'm going to sit in this residence, deplethoid arthritis, and cry every day over a COVID, I'm not going to get anywhere. What I should do is to do my bit in terms of the community and to talk a bit to people about my experiences and to do my work as a diplomat. I should know my limits. I should know my limits. There is not much more than I can do daily when I contact people, I talk to people, I even contact the Minister of Health, I contact certain people to then say, please, have you learned from us? This has happened. Have you learned from so-and-so? You know what is happening? And I think people are getting tired of me sometimes, but I'm doing my bit as an individual. And this is why I'm saying, let us take responsibility as an individual, do your bit and stay at home. I've been in this house for the past 30 days. One day I went out and the police just went whack next to me. I was walking. They said, go back. And I've been back since. The first 14 days, I had to be in isolation in my bedroom because I was thinking of the other people that work at this residence. It's that responsibility that I think we should really try. I don't know how our people self-responsibility. I have a feeling when I look at the figures in South Africa and the figures here in Spain, that we are headed for a very, very difficult time. You know, in Spain, per the population figures, is 389 people that die daily per 1 million. 389 that die daily per 1 million people. Spain has got 48 million people. South Africa has got 54 million. If we can get this message to our people in whatever way possible.
Thank you.
When I was in MK, we knew that there was a physical enemy. We had an enemy. When you're at war, you've got an enemy. You prepare yourself for the enemy. You have ammunition for the enemy. You've got everything for the enemy. But this one is a difficult one because it's a faceless enemy. You don't know where it is going. You don't know who has it.
Those are useful points. Just a couple of takeaways from myself, and I'll give you a chance to add to that, Ambassador. One is just this whole thing about being in touch with your feelings and going inside when things are difficult, and not only looking at yourself with judgment, but also expressing your emotions. I like your, if that's the right word to use, I'm impressed with the reference to crying. But I also like the reference to dancing, because also you find ways of expressing and releasing some of the emotions that you're sitting with. That's the one biggest takeaway from me. But I also liked your self-reflection in terms of the time that you spend with yourself, things that you're starting to learn about yourself, and knowing that there are certain things that this is who I am, and being in touch with who you are, and using the time that over lockdown to be in touch with yourself. I am also, the other takeaway from me is the issue of your own value and belief system, that it forms the foundation for you to be able to be resilient and to show up in the world in a way that you have, and being able, when things are down or difficult, you are able to rise again. So knowing your value system, and I think the role that your mother has played, and I think many people on the call are mothers or bigger sisters or are women. And it's an important role that we play in terms of parenting and showing the younger generations how to be in life. Sometimes we feel the unreasonable, things are difficult, but at the same time, we do have a responsibility of passing things from one generation to the next. And I was particularly moved by your reference to being of service, whether you are that as a diplomat, and because that defines who you are, or of service to your country, and of service to others, and lifting others, especially people in your family and people in your tribe. that's another takeaway from me. And the last one, I think, relates to what you called earlier on in your comments, was around sisterhood, and the need to know that there's people out there that are there to help you, whether those are people that help you at university when you can't register, or people that take notes for you that they have, and that has been the common thread in your life. And know that you are not an island, you belong to a tribe, which is a topic that we went into quite in detail last week. And as people have given us their email addresses, and please continue to do that, we will make sure that you get that recording too. I'm going to allow you to just say closing remarks. It's just, I'm looking at my notes because I've been making notes. It's a full page. I don't think I've done justice in summarizing it, but I've tried my best. But is there anything else on your side at this stage that you would like to?
No,
closing remarks.
Hi, Pam, and your listeners, and thank you very much for having me. And I usually say to my tribe that, of course, I waffle a lot. And one of the difficulties is one of my comrades once said to me that your problem is that awufundanga and isingesi sakho is wishy-washy. So I apologize because andifundanga kenyani and I'm just changing. But one of the things that I just wanted to say, I don't know how many minutes I have, is even with this thing of sisterhood, we must not take it for granted. You've got to work on it. So you've got yourself, your values and everything. You are your best friend. You cry with yourself. You laugh with yourself. You dance with yourself. But you must also be there for the others. Mm. And sometimes you are there for the others. And when you need them, they're not there for you. But that should not take out from yourself. The fact that when you need them, they are not there does not mean that you must not be there for them. So you must always be prepared to give. You must be prepared to give. But in my view, you must also ask. People may not know that you've got arthritis, you're sitting there, you're miserable, you're crying. You've got to ask. And you can only ask from people that you have a strong relationship with, people that you have been there for. And therefore asking comes out of being there for the others. And you must be able to take from the others. There are people that are not able to take. They're not able to ask. They're not able to take. They feel that they are so self-sufficient. In my experience, I've never been self-sufficient. I've had to rely on self, but not self-sufficient. So I think that that thing of starting with the self and your values and yourself and loving yourself and getting into yourself, but being there for the others, and also asking from the others, and also taking from others. Taking is not a crime. You've got to take from others. I take a lot from all my friends in many ways than one. I always say, and this is my last, if I have a friend who cannot pick up my call at 2 a.m., it doesn't matter where she or he is. And if at all I talk to him or her at 2 a.m., that person feels like I'm being a nuisance, then that's not a friend. If my friend cannot call me any hour, because then they think that, hey, then that's not a friend. That's my definition of friend. And that's how I think you grow to be resilient. Because you've got all these people that you can cry to. You can say, hey, why don't you answer the phone when you know that I'm crying? And then the person asks, why are you crying? I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm crying. You must be there. Listen to me, I'm crying. And I've got a group of friends that are in my Stokvel, which we call Umpilongso. They know I call at all odd hours. Some of them have been in Europe and others have been in America. But me, myself, Tenju, I call them and I cry. And then they ask me, why are you crying? I say, I don't know, but I'm crying now. You must cry with me now. I'm in this thing. We're in this thing together. So if at all you don't have people that you can be in this thing, including lockdown, If you don't have people to be in this thing together, arthritis in this thing, but I'm surviving it because I can call on anyone that is in my tribe.
Awesome. And I like your last point on, the point about vulnerability. I'm getting ideas on that, but we've run out of time. I see Ambassador Lali says, ask here, whatever that means. It must mean something to.
I will not answer.
Yes, I know. It means something to the two of you. We've had just in closing, just a few points that just to say on the topic, that as part of resilience, expect and embrace change, which is what we decided we dealt with in seminar or webinar 1. And then connect with supportive people. And I think Ambassador Mtintso has helped us a lot on this topic. That's what we dealt with in webinar 2. Other points to just I'm leaving you with: use positive self-talk, and in that also look at things, embrace your vulnerability, because we need to cry if we need to, and we need to laugh when we need to, and we need to dance when we need to. Reframe your current reality. And I think Ambassador has demonstrated a lot of that in terms of the situations or the cards that she's been dealt with and how she has reframed that. And also remind yourself that the challenge is temporary. So even this corona will pass, and then developing coping skills ahead of time. And I suppose if I was not, I have to say this as a coach: find yourself a coach and sign up on our programs. How you connect with us as I end the session is those you can get in touch, comment on our blog that we have on our website, www.zenandeleadership.com. There's our phone number. And we've got a group on Facebook, Pam the Coach. Send me an invite and I will allow you into the group. And then you can always ask Pam on the Zenanda website. There is a little icon where you can click and ask Pam. By the way, in terms of, we just decided to extend this to be for next week as well, because initially it was 3 weeks. We will do the same thing, same time, but still have to decide on the topic. I really welcome on the Zenanda website if you could send me inputs in that regard, or when we send you the recording, you then type on that what you think the next topic is. We haven't decided on it yet, but we're trying to find topics that have got to be useful to you at this time. But thanks very much to Ambassador Mtintso for sharing herself with us and spending this an hour and a half with us, including the preparatory time that she put into this and showing up for us in terms of how she dressed up. And we really, really, and also, and to everyone else who's taken the time to just spend an hour and a half with other women and other people and just and share your experiences. And Ambassador, we have all of the chats. We're able to print it and we're able to take it. So there's been quite a lot of complimentary comments that we've received. So we will make sure that you receive that. So we'll send you all of the chats and all of the compliments, because you're far away from home. It would be useful to just get good messages and messages of appreciation from people back at home, and we'll send that to you. But on that note, I would like to say, and I see everyone is saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and I'm saying I love you back, and hopefully see you next week, same time, 2 o'clock. You have to register in the webinar. Hopefully Zoom will be kinder to us and be much more interactive, and we'll continue looking at it to see where we can improve. But we are very, very, very honored to have had you in attendance, and thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you and goodbye.